Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Storytime with Ghost. I am your host, Ghost. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now on today's show, we are going to be reviewing Season 2, Episode 1 of Peacemaker. Peacemaker is directed by James Gunn, written by James Gunn, and this is the synopsis for this episode. His pet Eagly accidentally leads him into a pocket dimension, a hidden quantum storage room in his home, where Chris encounters a bewildering alternate universe. In this mirror world, his deceased father, Augie, played by Robert Patrick, is alive and compassionate, and his brother Keith, played by David Denham, exists as well, ushering Chris into a surreal confrontation with what his life could have been. The encounter escalates quickly and tragically, ending in a violent showdown where Chris inadvertently kills his alternate self, an emotionally devastating moment that sets the tone for the season's multiverse chaos. That's the episode in a nutshell. So I'm not going to go over all the points. I just want to go over some of the highlights, some of the things that really stuck out to me in this episode. There's a few things that really stuck out to me, but I'll cover that here in a minute. A few things that I want to go over right now that I liked about this episode. First and foremost is I want to say John Cena is great in this series. He is great as Peacemaker. I think his performance is amazing. And in the previous season of Peacemaker, John Cena has really developed himself to be a really good dramatic actor. There's a lot of great parts in this episode with him reuniting with Robert Patrick, his father, and his brother in this alternate universe. And there's a really lot of heartwarming moments in those scenes. So those moments, I have to give it up for James Gunn and John Cena, plus the other actors involved in those scenes. So kudos to that. So I did like the emotion that I felt. James Gunn is a writer. He's been writing a lot of stuff. He wrote Superman, he wrote Suicide Squad, he wrote The Guardians of the Galaxies. Full confession for all you guys at home, I actually like James Gunn for the most part. I liked even his obscure movies, but that I bet none of you guys have even watched or even heard of, such as Slither. If you guys haven't checked out Slither, written directed by James Gunn, this is one of his first movies that he's ever wrote. Great little sci-fi horror movie. That was good. And there's another movie that was pretty good called Super. And that was a low budget, almost like an indie film. And that starred Rainn Wilson, Dwight Schrute from The Office. I'm a big fan of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, written and directed by James Gunn. My goodness, I love that movie. I like the other Guardian movies as well, not as much as their first ones. I like the Suicide Squad. I saw Superman and I thought it was okay. I thought it was just, to be honest with you, I thought it was just meh. Now, if you're familiar with James Gunn, you are then going to be familiar with his sense of humor. Either you're going to like it or it's going to grind on you a little bit.
Chris, can you tell us a little about your skills?
My skills?
That's right. What sort of skills would you bring to the Justice Gang?
Besides blowing dudes.
Now, this is a spoiler because this has to deal with the ending. I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time. What I liked about it is when the alternate John Cena got killed by our John Cena. Even though it wasn't really that big of a surprise because with the previews, we did see them fighting each other, the two John Cenas. But in those previews, it didn't show, obviously, John Cena killing himself. But I did have an idea that was the route that they're going to go. And John Cena is now going to essentially replace the John Cena that he killed and essentially take over that John Cena's life in this dimension, which then would allow him to hang out with the T-1000 and the dude from The Office. I just thought that confrontation would have been handled a little bit different. That's the only thing that I had questions about, because if I met myself in another universe, I would think that I would know myself a little bit more than to essentially freak out and try to kill myself. I know John Cena thought that the other John Cena was a clone or a shapeshifter, and that's why he was very adamant about trying to kill him. If both John Cenas would have just took a breath and taken a step back and explained exactly what was going on, because they both have the same mind. So I would think they would be able to rationalize with yourself, essentially. That escalated, and John Cena and the other alternate John Cena ended up fighting, and one of them being killed. I just thought that was like, well, obviously that's where the plot needs to go. We need to get rid of this other John Cena so that way, we can have our John Cena essentially replace him. And then we're going to have all these wacky adventures in this new alternate universe. So now those are the things that I like. Now let's talk about the things that I don't really like. Now, I'm not going to go over every little thing because there's actually a lot of little nitpicking things that I wasn't quite on board with, but I'm not going to go over all that. Just a few major red flags. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one. Whether these bushes be shaved or not shaved, that is the question. I think we all know what I'm referring to, and that is the orgy scene. Now, the orgy scene to me is very interesting. I looked at these shows through a different lens than most reviewers, because at surface level, a lot of these reviewers that I've been noticing that have been commenting on this scene, well, they think it's like, well, it's on HBO Max, so James Gunn, he's got to do these crazy things and he's got to show some nudity and show all the little wieners and boobs and things like that because it's on HBO Max. And it's a bit of a shock factor, and it's something that he can do because that's what that platform allows him to do, make all those crazy decisions, like having an orgy. We have to remember, this is the same network that made Game of Thrones. So if that gives you any idea what we're dealing with here. Now, my issue, though, with this orgy scene is this. I don't care if you have an orgy scene in a show. I'm not against it, but there is a caveat, a little asterisk that goes along with that orgy, and that's this. You can have an orgy in a show, which is fine, as long as it helps move the plot. What did this orgy scene in Peacemaker do to move the plot? Did it have or add anything to the plot? Or could we have possibly removed this whole orgy scene and nothing in this episode would have changed? It would have been exactly the same, except for people would not be talking about an orgy scene, is what would have happened. So again, if the orgy scene had some sort of purpose, some sort of grand scheme on why everybody was naked and doing orgy things, yet John Cena was completely clothed. That's what bugged me also about that. Is like, okay, great, have an orgy, but why is John Cena have his clothes on? And also on top of that, why is he not engaging in the orgy? If he lets this orgy happen and they're all naked, why are they all naked? You think a couple of them would have a few socks or something wrapped around their male members or whatever, but they're all naked. Except for, I did see a girl, she did have a pair of shoes on. Okay, so and some socks, I think. But other than that, everybody was in their birthday suits, except for John Cena. And this orgy scene goes on for quite a while, by the way. And not only that, John Cena actually was almost involved by two people to participate in an orgy. There's a male person trying to kiss on him, and then there's a female person kissing on him at the same time. That's letting us know that, hey guys, the Peacemaker, he likes to play for both teams. That's what that's letting everybody know. The orgy scene has a lot more depth and meaning to it that a lot of these simpletons are not going to understand or comprehend. So let me give you a little bit of insight of what this orgy scene is really about. And actually, it's actually part of something else that happens in this episode that actually kind of makes no sense on the surface level. We just kind of skip through it and think it's kind of funny, or it's just kind of a time filler. But actually, this particular scene played a little part with the orgy scene. So there is a connection. There is a connection between both scenes. And what is the other scene, you might ask? Well, that scene has to do with good old Vidge. We all know who Vidge is, right? Vidge is actually one of my favorite characters in Peacemaker. I think he's just a funny dude. The Vidge is the vigilante. There is this one scene where the Vidge calls Econos, that dude in the van, and then they start talking about owl trivia. You know, like hoot, the bird, like Hooters. They're talking about owls. And that's such a random topic to be talking about. Owls. Why on earth would they just start talking about owls for no real good reason? Just out of the blue. Why would they be talking about owls? That has no one really thought about why they would be talking about owl trivia. There is a reason that they do these things. The whole owl reference is actually a reference to a demon, to a idol, to an entity known as Moloch. Moloch, the owl. So the owl has close ties to a place called Bohemian Grove. And Bohemian Grove was made famous by a guy named Alex Jones. But he went in there and he did a video on this, and it pretty much showed a bunch of people in robes performing satanic rituals. This is the message that James Gunn is letting everybody know, like, hey, listen, we are still heavily involved in child sacrificing. This is how we are promoting this, by putting in an orgy scene in a show that is being followed up by a movie called Superman, which is a family-friendly movie. So you're taking all your kids to go see Superman, and then James Gunn is over here telling you, hey, after Superman, you got to go check out this show. It's the most important thing in DC right now, so you better take all your kiddos and everybody that went and saw Superman, and you guys need to see Peacemaker and watch everybody and watch all these floppy wangs. This literally perverts the minds of the youth, and this is the point. This is the message. They doing this so subtly. People think this is funny because they have the veil over their faces. Yeah, so this is not good, guys. This is not good. James Gunn's wife. You know, I'm not gonna even call her hardcore. Hardcore. I'm just gonna call her James Gunn's wife. I'm just gonna call her. Her in that bar fight scene. What was that about? And that scene is just so ridiculous. Like, I don't understand, like, why people just shut their brains off when they watch shows. And I guess that's what you need to do these days. It's just not really think about stuff. When I saw that bar scene with James Gunn's wife entering the bar, and then all these dudes were just like ogling and googling her and cat whistling. Like, that is not a realistic scene, really. I mean, I know they're trying to show all this toxic masculinity, but it's just so comical that all these dudes would just like ignore. Like, I think there's like this one girl in there, and then she gets mad because like her boyfriend is all checking out James Gunn's wife at the bar. But like, why couldn't this have been a normal scene? She could have just went to the bar, had a drink. Maybe a guy would have been like, hey, how's it going? And that would have been it. But no, we have to have this scene where she gets her ass kicked to show that she has toxic masculinity, and she just needs a way to release all that masculinity. I mean, great. I mean, yes, that's why I like Peacemaker, is so I can see James Gunn's wife getting her ass kicked in a bar for no damn reason other than to show how good she does in fight choreography. Thanks, James Gunn's wife. And there's a scene where they throw her out of the bar eventually. I mean, she gets kicked in the face by a boot. I mean, does she even have any superpowers? I feel like she should be in like a coma. She should have like a bunch of broken ribs. Like, what is the deal? Like, she should be like, seriously, her whole face should be messed up, broken nose and everything. But here, turn off your brain. Don't think about that kind of stuff. Just turn the brain off. That scene at the end when they showed her face there all bruised and bloodied, it did remind me of Jared Leto in The Fight Club after he got his face smashed in by good old Tyler Durden. There's some funny parts. Justice Gang. I mean, I can't never really get mad at Nathan Fillion. I mean, Nathan Fillion, he's a good actor. He's a good guy. I've seen him in, what's that movie? Firefly. He was in Serenity. He was in some other things. I know he's in that show, Rookie Blue or Blue Rookie or some cop show. But he's funny as Guy Gardner. I like him as Guy Gardner. And Hot Girl, whatever. She doesn't really do much except give attitude. And then we have James Gunn's brother, Max Lord. And I'm talking about this whole scene with the Peacemaker going in for an interview to join the Justice Gang. I mean, I thought that scene was, it was humorous, comical, the switching the switch so that way John Cena wasn't supposed to hear anything, but he ends up hearing it because, Guy Gardner was messing around with the whole switch. But that whole scene right there was fine. It was humorous, but what did it really add to the story? It just made the Justice Gang look like a bunch of a-holes. Really? I mean, is that the point? They're just a bunch of stuck-up a-holes? And a few other things that I noticed, too, when John Cena went into the other universe and, he saw the posters of the glam rock bands. I did notice the Def Leppard, the name was spelled correctly. Yeah, but it was pour some honey on me instead of pour some sugar on me. So yeah, there's a lot of variables in this alternate universe. And I know most of you that are watching this, all 10 people that are watching this, I know a lot of this stuff is going to go over your heads, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. Because a lot of people, they don't understand the nature of a reality, and which is this: the multiverse absolutely exists. And so what this is showing with this alternate universe is, yes, there are universes out there in our universe that is slightly different than our current reality. It just at a different frequency. So final thoughts. Overall, I just thought this show is it's okay. It's about average. I actually would have probably given a much higher rating if it wasn't for that orgy scene, because I know the message behind that scene, and because it ties into the random owl conversation, because those two tie in together. There's a message behind those two things that people really need to take a look at and examine. There is a rabbit hole between a lot of the stuff that's going on in Hollywood. We call it Holly Weird is what we call this stuff. And it is very rampant in this business, also in the music business as well. So you have to be very aware of all these things. I mean, a lot of people have been speaking out about this for many, many decades. Corey Feldman is one of them. But anyways, I digress. This is my video. This is my review for Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1. I will give you guys a final score, 1 out of 10. 1 being complete hot garbage, dog shit. Okay, a big old pile steaming right there on your porch. Don't even want it. Don't even want to get near it. Anyways, that's a 1. A number 10 would be, like I mentioned, a number 10 would be essentially the gates of heaven opening and the angels swooping down and kidnapping your ass and taking you to the movie theater. That's a 10. How I would rank this would be, with everything I've said, I like the acting. John Cena puts on a great performance. I like him as the Peacemaker. He's great in this role. I like him. I like the vigilante. He's funny. And there's a lot of things. I do enjoy some of the humor, and I do enjoy a lot of James Gunn's work. But me knowing the message that he's trying to convey with the orgy and then the owl, I just got to give it a lower rating because of what I know. And for those reasons, and I'm being generous, I'm being very generous with my score. I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. So 5 out of 10. So that's my score. All right, guys, that is it. That is our show for tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, please subscribe for more content. Hope to see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.
It's going to be an interesting ride from here on out.